Oh, oh, hi. Happy New Year, everyone. Let's talk about movies. This definitely has been quite an experimental year for movies as far as being good and bad quality and whatnot. Obviously, for fans of the MCU or DC comic book movies and whatnot, it definitely has been a bit of an improvement for those people. But I feel like far and away that superhero fatigue is still here to stay, at least for right now. I don't know what people are feeling right now about Avengers Doomsday and whatnot, but I just know as someone who used to watch Marvel, not super, like, into it, mind you, but as someone who did watch Marvel with my brother and whatnot growing up, I'm happy that I'm no longer a Marvel stan. Not that I was really one to begin with, but it was entertainment growing up, and yeah. But either way, for a long time Marvel movie fans and whatnot, it'll be interesting to see how things go when Doomsday eventually comes out. But this is not one of those videos that I wanted to make. I'm not here to talk about franchise movies or whatnot. I'm just here to talk about all the movies that I watched this last year, and just giving my honest thoughts upon them as quickly as I possibly can and whatnot. But more so that I just want this video to just be just a general recommendation for those who hadn't seen these movies that I'm about to list, and to give them a chance and whatnot. Most of these movies that I've watched should be something that at least someone in your friend group or whatnot has at least seen once. If not, maybe the first time that you're hearing about this, but as like the worst case scenario. But either way, let's go ahead and discuss what those movies are. I want to say in like detail, in like excruciating detail. Actually, that's not the right word, but let's just discuss movies. All right.
So I'm starting things off with my honorable mentions, as these are the movies that unfortunately didn't make my top 10, whether it be for some issues with story and whatnot. But either way, unfortunately, these didn't make the top 10, but they're still good enough in their own right to mention right here. So I'm going to bring up what those movies are. And we're starting things off in the honorable mentions with Wicked for Good, an unfortunately bumpy but still quite an enjoyable ride, to say the least. Now, prior to a couple months ago, I hadn't seen the first movie, so I did a little bit of catch up and whatnot. I also hadn't been familiar with the musical, so now that I've finally seen the first part, as in just Wicked, that's just what the first movie is called, and the part 2 is just called For Good. It's enjoyable. I actually did quite like it for what it is, and I would definitely give myself a watch to see the stage adaptation whenever I can. But like enjoyable, but it's pretty enjoyable as far as an adaptation goes. And that's just my thoughts about just the first movie. But second movie, it's still fun. I wouldn't say that this was really a major improvement by any stretch. I almost thought that initially, after my first view, but I thought about it a little bit more, and it's no, unfortunately it is not. But I will say that if you haven't seen the first movie, this is probably the best time to go watch the first movie and then go into the second one, knowing the full context of things. But either way, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, but I do feel like it is a major disappointment as far as being a follow-up. But musically, it's still pretty good, just like the first one. But I would say just unfortunate disappointment. And that's why it's currently at the place that it is right here in the honorable mentions. The next film here in the honorable mentions is a film called Andre is an Idiot. Now, as far as I'm aware, I don't know if there's a release date or whatnot, if it has come out on digital or if it's going to be planned to be released in theaters. But I thought it was a good enough movie to bring up here, and it's basically a documentary about this dude named Andre, so if based on the title, is an idiot and made unfortunate life choices to the point where he had terminal cancer. And unfortunately, I won't spoil for obvious reasons ending, but basically this is a kind of movie that explores death and whatnot, and tries to the very best to find the humor in it all and whatnot, and just accept that it's gonna happen. But I want just want you to be functionally prepared and whatnot. be ready to just laugh it off and fight with humor and whatnot. And it's it quite honestly talk a bit at the heartstrings. It's definitely one of those kind of movies where you're small, you can and especially cry. I kind of wish I did cry. When I watched it, because there were moments where I did actually want to. Because again, this is talking about terminal illness and whatnot, like final days of living. So take that all you will. It's definitely something I'm going to look forward to watching at a later date again. Go check that documentary out when it does show up, if it hasn't already popped up on VOD or hasn't even theaters. But if it has, I'll update the video somewhere around here, or I'll post in the comments if anything comes up. But as far as I'm aware, just off the top of my head, I don't think I've seen anything outside of me watching it at my festival, my local film festival, that being Montclair Film Festival. But yep, that's my quick thoughts about Andre's an Idiot. So let's talk about the next movie here, my honorable mentions. All right, so I know I mentioned I wouldn't be talking about franchise movies all that much, but I'll at least give a little bit of a brief mention here about the final Mission Impossible movie, Final Reckoning. I think it's called. Yeah, The Final Reckoning. If you're a huge fan of action movies and whatnot, this is definitely quite the send-off for Ethan Hunt and his crew. I've been following the series since the 2011 installment, Ghost Protocol, and it had been quite a wild journey, I'll say. I definitely find myself at times being a sucker for action adventure types of movies, even though most of my mainstay is in horror and thriller based stuff, but I still enjoy it from here and there. I just enjoy movies in general. So I figured I'd at least bring up Mission Impossible, considering this is the final entry just released in the last year. I can't believe I'm saying the last year, because it's 2026 as I'm recording this. It's been a pretty good watch, all things considered. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it, but and obviously, if you haven't seen Mission Impossible, it's a good franchise. Fun. I don't want to say nonsensical, because it's not really the right term, but it's still a good watch, nonetheless. All right, so this video I've already talked about in my spring 2025 film review video, and that is Parvullo's Children of the Apocalypse, which basically kind of takes the perspective of being a survivor in the zombie apocalypse and kind of flips it a bit on its head. When I say this, I'm kind of refer to it if we're talking about George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead or whatnot. Instead, they're more ghoul than zombies. I mean, there's still blood and guts and whatnot, but at the core of it, it's a little bit different than what you expect. This is actually more or less a story about taking care of family and whatnot, even if they had turned in infected at some point. And it definitely hits emotional heartbeat. Emotional heartbeat. It definitely tugs at the emotional strings, is what I'm saying. But yeah, if you want to go to see the rest of my opinions on that movie, go ahead and check out the spring 2025 quick review video that I made. I want to say it was at the beginning of June or late June. I can't remember exactly when I posted that, but that video will be linked somewhere around here or in the description or in the pinned comments. I can't remember where I'll put it, but at least I'm mentioning it right there. So there you go. Next here on the list is another movie that I went to go see at Montclair Film. It should be out right now if it isn't screening around your area or if it hasn't dropped on digital, but it is this French animated movie called Arco. Quite honestly, a fun trip. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. It has the English cast of Natalie Portman, Will Ferrell, Andy Samberg, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers band, And it is about a boy named Arco, of course, that basically he decides one day to try to learn to fly and loses his the ability to fly, and through discovering a new friend, a young girl named Iris. When I say young girl, I mean they're both the same age, in let's say middle school, high school. I can't remember exactly, but either way, he teaches it about like the world around her, and eventually he gains the courage or whatnot to try to do what he can to return to his family by trying to regain his ability to fly, if you will. But it's quite a beautifully animated movie, and I definitely say go in it with an open mind, and I'm not gonna really do a whole lot of spoiling it, because like honestly I don't even have anything off the top of my head to spoil about. Just go watch it. But yeah, that's how I feel about Arco. Again, like you don't have to watch the dub. There should be like a original French subtitle, original French dub, English subtitles and whatnot. But as far as I'm aware, like I watched the English not re-release, the English dub at the Montclair Film Festival. But yeah, I don't have much else to bring up about it. All right, so the next film here in my honorable mentions is Are You Supreme? And I gotta say, it definitely was a movie. A good one. I want to say a good one. It's a pretty good movie. I'm trying to do the best I can to just get my quick thoughts out of here, because I just watched it yesterday. At the time of recording this is technically my birthday. But either way, again, it is a pretty fascinating trip, to say the least. Tonally, as far as the story goes, it definitely felt like it was a bit of a shift in comparison to what I was used to when it came to the Safdie brothers' previous work, when they last worked together, which was for Uncut Gems. But I still found myself enjoy it quite a lot. It definitely still felt like I was watching a Safdie brothers movie here and there, but it definitely felt it definitely felt like it was a little less like of a Safdie brothers movie, since Benny Safdie didn't work on this, and this past whole year and whatnot. Also, I'm sorry about my face cam pause for a second, but this whole this past year, considering this is really their first year that both Josh and Benny Safdie split apart, do their own solo outings and whatnot. But either way, getting back on topic with the movie at hand, I'm just if you're wondering why I'm looking down or whatnot, I'm just trying to remember my notes that I wrote down for it. I did feel similarly like with Uncut Gems, that I still had a bit of a lurking anxiety with the story, but it was it's more than just like it was more just a feeling throughout the runtime and whatnot, that I did feel a bit of anxiety kind of rise up, but like it was just all that really was. And it's just there were moments in the movie that felt like my anxiety was getting up, but just only that, just like a bit of like levels of anxiety rising and then kind of coming back down and whatnot, which like I did kind of appreciate, because it did kind of remind me of Uncut Gems with that shift in anxiety. I want to since the whole movie essentially an anxiety attack and whatnot. Last I remember watching Uncut Gems, which was around which was around I want to say it was Christmas Eve of 2019 when that did eventually come out. But yeah, it's been a pretty interesting ride. So I'm trying the best I can to just remember this. But the anxiety is more like toward like the end of the movie, not like the ending, but like more like the end of the second half of the movie, which I should mention is around like 2 hours and 30 minutes, which like runtime wise, I did feel like it was a little bit longer. Like initially, I felt like it was going on a little bit longer than it should, but then I just I had the second thoughts way through the second half, and I was like, okay, this is not too bad. All things considered, but it'll definitely be interesting to see the other movies later down the line, after Mario Supreme, and of course Benny's directorial debut in the Smashing Machine, which I have not seen yet. It'll be interesting to see what movies they make next. As far as I'm aware, this is not Josh Safdie, that being the director here of Mario Supreme. This is not his first solo outing. This is just his first in a long while. Since his first solo outing, which was like, what was it? Almost 8 years ago. I can't believe saying it. It is almost 8 years ago, probably. Almost 8 years ago. 18 years ago. Sorry. I'm just like, I'm just trying to remember things as far as whatnot. But either way, I enjoyed it for what it is. But anyways, here's my here's the last movie I'm talking about here in my honorable mentions, and yeah. And last but not least, here are my honorable mentions. We have K-pop Demon Hunters, and quite a movie to put at the end of this list. This almost went on my top 10. And keep in mind, I say almost because there was one thing that unfortunately set itself back, and that it kind of ruined how I feel a bit toward the movie, and that has to be with the usage of like AI for certain things within songs and whatnot, regardless of like if it was just used as mainly inspiration and whatnot. The fact that AI was used in the production of a major movie and whatnot, it definitely put some red flags out there. But either way, I'm going to talk briefly about this as can. It's still a good movie, all things considered. And obviously beautiful animation from the team at Sony Pictures Animation. Obviously, musically, this is also pretty decent. Especially like some like of the well-known tracks from the soundtrack, Golden, and of course the one that I unfortunately had brought up that AI was partially used or whatnot in the making of it. That was being Soda Pop. But I'm gonna try to keep this. I'm trying to do the best I can to keep my opinions about this as fair as I possibly can. But like it definitely ambiance of the whole movie, set very well. I loved the action sequences, and how emotional it can get at times throughout its runtime and whatnot. And I would definitely recommend you do check it out if you haven't seen that. It's probably going to be a nominee for Best Animated Feature. I don't want to say for certain, but I'm just at least just my thoughts out about this. It's probably I feel like it's probably going to be a nominee for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars this March. But either way, that's all I really have as thought wise about K-pop Demon Hunters, and that leads me pretty much to the end of my honorable mentions, which, by the way, when I say the end of my honorable mentions, from top to bottom is basically I want to say worse, because worse is not the best statement to say. I would say okay to pretty great, and K-pop Demon Hunters is right there at a pretty great section. But again, this is not again, this is just mainly honorable mentions. This is just stuff that wasn't quite great enough to fit into my top 10. But I'm just glad that I at least brought this up. So if you haven't seen these, go ahead, watch them right now. But either way, it's about that time I switch over to my voiceover for this and maybe do some quick shots of me just discussing about the movie. As we get now officially into the top 10, or my top 10 movies, or my top 10 favorites of this entire year as far as movies goes. But yeah, enjoy the montage. All right, so kicking things off here at number 10 is Mickey 17. This is the latest movie from director Bong Joon-ho of Parasite fame, who took home the Best Picture award and many different awards as well at the Oscars. And this is his first follow-up since his major win for Parasite. And I'll say this has definitely been an interesting choice of narrative and whatnot. It's a pretty bizarre yet fun premise that is not for everyone's taste. And I can kind of see why. Then again, I could probably say the same thing for Parasite, even though it's a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more accessible for people to get to watch. But while I can't say the same thing here for Mickey 17, I will say that it's like humor-wise, like 8 succeeds pretty well. Even if it does get a bit dark. It's particularly when the film showcases the amount of times that he's died over the years as part of being expendable and whatnot. All in the name of course, progressing the human race into the future and to, of course, preventing even more deaths and whatnot. All because of our buddy Mickey, who has died 17 times in a row. Or at least we think he'll die 17th death. Because where the narrative really kicks off is of the 17th Mickey actually surviving death. And now there are 2 Mickeys. Mickey 18, of course, Mickey 17, the one that did not pass on. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't too bad when you consider the broad scope of the plot, which involves, of course, extraterrestrial creatures and whatnot on this planet they decided to stop on. But like outside of Mark Ruffalo's performance as Kenneth Marshall, who kind of operates similarly to that of a current orange turd in Office, similarly mirrors a bit of a reality in ways. But I wouldn't say that I don't have much else to really mention here about the world of this movie. But regardless of how I feel about it as a whole, I'd say even though it feels a bit close to home at times, definitely give this a watch, if you will. It's definitely an interesting trip. Now, the animated movie that made my 9th slot here is The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. And what I will say, it is an absolutely fun time. Not to say that K-Pop Demon Hunters wasn't a fun time, but if you really are in the mood for slapstick comedy, like even more so than K-Pop Demon Hunters, and you miss old school cartoons, please give this a watch. I'd even say if you're not into them, like still give this a watch. It's still great as far as like story wise goes. And this whole story kind of centers around Daffy Duck and Porky Pig as they're trying to do their best they can to save their house from being sold off or whatnot, because they failed to ensure that their roof is okay and whatnot, because the roof over the years has actually managed to for lack of better words suffer a lot of damage. And now they have to do what they can to try to raise money to be able to afford fixing it and whatnot, all while something completely insane happens as far as things go around the work location, but more or less what happens from that work location that causes Porky's love interest in Petunia Pig to help alongside them and whatnot. But basically, it involves gum, and that's all I will say, because I can't remember off the top of my head everything about the movie. But either way, it is really, really cool. And it's rare to see a fun, nonsensical story like this in a good while, considering the state of things with movies and whatnot. And kind of hard to find like at least original sounding stories. Like I don't know, like fully original stuff. But like as far as being in like the Looney Tunes universe, this feels like quite like a fresh change of pace, like in quite a long time, especially considering the last like quote unquote like adaptation of Looney Tunes like property and whatnot back in action. But to be quite honest, I'm actually glad that this movie finally saw the light of day after its distributor Warner Bros. Decided to can distribution and hand it over to a different company, that being Ketchup Entertainment. Of course, not only did it delivered quite the entertainment I was hoping to see, especially for the first fully animated Looney Tunes feature to actually see a theatrical release, which in 2025, 2026 is quite an accomplishment, and I'm very happy that it did. And I'll also say right now that I'm very happy that its distributor, Ketchup Entertainment, also bought the rights to Coyote vs. Acme. So for those of us who are looking forward to seeing that come out, considering I've heard pretty great things about that before its cancellation, by Warner Bros. For tax write-offs and whatnot, it will definitely be an interesting time. But either way, let's talk about the next entry on this top 10, as in my 8th favorite of the entire year. So now that we've gotten to my number 8 seed and whatnot, I can't believe I'm saying seed like this is the NFL, but I mean, now we've gotten to my number 8 pick, as in my 8th favorite of the year, let's talk about a little movie called Friendship. I definitely want to say, like, this is one of those movies I did not expect I would actually enjoy, considering I'm not super huge into, like, comedies, like, nowadays, because, like, more often than not, like, comedy will just usually just be embedded, like, into, like, the movies that I'm, like, usually watch, considering, like they will be, like, in horror movies, but, like, as far as just, like, straight up comedies, I have, like, not really, like, watched one in years, but this one came, like, very much out of nowhere for me, and I was very happy that I did get a chance to see it when I did. This was, like, perfectly timed for that, like, small break, right before the summer began, after, all the April releases that I wanted to see came around, just when, like, the Memorial Day weekend fair starts popping up. I was quite glad that I kept them in there. This was, how, like, Paul Rudd alongside Tim Robinson, a newer face in comedy as far as I'm aware of, made this film quite the laughter that I really needed. As I mentioned in my review of it from my springtime 2025 video, I was sitting with a decently sized crowd around me, and, like, the absurd humor and false foresight on the screen, often made me appreciate a guy like Robinson, as he really delivered, his his performance that makes his character, like, it's, like, so cringe and whatnot. He really delivered on this performance that, otherwise, if anybody else played Craig, it would really be lost on it. And when Robinson played him, it's why even on, like, a second watch, I never really lost interest, because, like, this character of Craig is, like, so fascinating, and just, like, especially just why he just won't stop being a fucking idiot. And I'll definitely say, like, like as far as usage of, like, songs and whatnot, the use of My Boo, like, Ghost Town DJs, was really the best use I've actually heard of it, like, before. And the whole thing, like, song, kind of wraps, this interesting narrative, very well. As far as, like, any, like, final thoughts I have on it, I will say that the subway line, or like the subway scene or whatnot, I won't spoil where it is. It's definitely living rent free, ever since I went to go see it back in May last year, and I do see it as going to stay with me for quite a good while.
What happened?
I ordered.
Did you get the answer you were looking for?
No, I ordered a sandwich at Subway.
All right, so this entry and the one that I have selected for number 5 are both directorial debuts. So, but this is definitely quite the debut here to put in number 7. And the movie I want to talk about here in the 7th seed is The Plague, which, for all intents and purposes, has not been released yet. Just like with Andre is an Idiot. But as far as, like, a nationwide release, it's not coming out until the end of this month, so you still have a little bit of time until it comes out. But it might actually be playing in select cities near you, so just keep your eyes open for when tickets might show up around your area. But either way, let's talk about The Plague and like what it is as a movie. But either way, this takes place during a summer camp at a water polo school, and we follow this kid named Ben, who discovers that alongside some scars, he tries to endure heavy amount of anxiety, including the force within the gang of classmates that he often tries to hang around with. And it's some form of tradition that he and another is called out for having the title namesake, which is the plague, as they think that having the plague and whatnot turns your brain into baby food, and you'll get like scars and whatnot all over your body. But according to like So we'll say like the main kid in like this this gang of classmates and whatnot. This was like a brain killer. And this anxiety from like having the quote unquote plague only increases throughout the runtime as of course our lead character in Ben also too is on the receiving end of the bullying. And it's kind of why I made the post on Blue Sky, bring my immediate thoughts about it, and why I said this is like the best, like if like a movie could be like an anti-bullying PSA, that like this is like the best example here. That this would fit the bill of anti-bullying PSA very well, and then some from all the body horror that's in place. But yeah, I like there's not a whole lot I can really say about it, is other than give this a watch, because you will never forget what this like this trip, if you will. It should be coming out around like January 30th, at least nationwide here in the States. I don't know about internationally, like as far as this movie's release goes, but at least here in statewide, the nationwide release is going to be January 30th. So I'll update it in the comments if my release times is wrong, but that's when it's supposed to be coming out. So there you go. All right, so right here at number 6, we have Weapons, which is Zach Krieger's sophomore outing as a solo director, which I will say is quite the absolute trip that it is, in a good way. When I say this, because it's definitely like the narrative will probably confuse some people, but like it is pretty good. I'll talk about this a little bit. I would have had a full video for my my summer 2025 and fall 2025 releases, but I never got a chance to do that. But I'm just gonna try to keep things as brief as I possibly can on this movie. But yeah, let's go ahead and discuss Weapons. So it follows the disappearance of 17 middle schoolers, all timed at around 2:17 in the morning, with different perspectives laced throughout to our runtime. It's very non-linear in that, and I really like the mystery from the disappearance of these students, especially within these perspectives. And as I mentioned, some people may get a little bit tired of the format when getting deeper into the movie, but that will probably depend on your experience or someone else's experience watching it. It unfortunately does stumble, a little bit around the ending, depending on how you look at it. But no, I had nothing wrong with it personally. Maybe it's because it kind of reminded me of Matilda or whatnot. But instead, instead being able to get away, she's just pinned down by the missing middle schoolers. But either way, I still enjoyed it for what it is, and I'm looking forward to what Zach's next film is. I hope hopefully is good or whatnot. I still have to watch his directorial debut in Barbarian, but either way, it's definitely a good impression that his sophomore outing here left on me. So yeah, go watch Weapons. It's pretty good. All right, and now time for the other directorial debut on this list here for my 5th entry, as in this is my placement for number 5, that being for this movie Together. Which takes place in a cabin out in the countryside, where a couple they're trying to settle down from all the crazy in their lives, like being for being a musician, or or for Alison Brie's character, settling in a new environment, and like education and whatnot. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. As much as they trying to settle down from the crazy in their lives, crazy ends up finding them, and in this unique setting there is some sort of supernatural occurrence to both Tim and Millie's bodies, and they want out of this occurrence badly, one more so than the other. But would they be able to actually be able to get out of this phenomenon? Could they possibly get help from their newfound neighbors and whatnot? But this is something these are questions that aren't are worth thinking about more after you watch the movie for yourself, because this doesn't really feel like a movie I want to spoil, for all things considered. Seriously, go watch the damn thing. You'll get the answer you're looking for. But all things considered, it's very well done, and it helps that both co-stars Alison Brie and Dave Franco are married in real life, because it makes this the claustrophobic nature in this film and the performances much more believable. If something like the phenomenon that they're experiencing happened in real life. It has quite the unreal ending that it did, and it's something I'm not going to forget for quite some time. But now that we've gotten things started with some body horror, about a tiny bit less of body horror, but still plenty enough body horror. And that brings me over to my number 4 pick. Bring her back. All right, so Danny and Michael are back with a new chapter in their own horror roots. And this time around, it involves 2 children who have been fostered after the unfortunately tragic death of their father. And after they eventually find a guardian and whatnot to take care of them, though through very strict recommendation, the brother eventually begins to lose his mind from all the disturbing things that he's seen, and those that had yet been seen, including another addition already in the family, who for all intents and purposes is mute to say the least. And dare I say, the body horror is plenty gross. The duo's first film in Talk to Me focused on the struggles with coping over the loss of parents, and while it is of course present here, this one very much has a family theme tied behind it, and I can see it echoed through bits and pieces of the movie even more than I did with Talk to Me, because with Talk to Me, it was more of this is more of just the focus of the spirits and whatnot taking a family friend, and it's more of trying to save them. But this is really more family forward this time around, and it's still very effective at that theme and whatnot. Trying to get back on topic here as best as I can. I'll say that compared to their debut, soundtrack wise in comparison to the first movie, it is beautiful, and probably the most beautiful I've heard all year as far as non-musical genre based fare and whatnot. And it definitely helps hit the emotional beats throughout, especially for the ending of it, which I will not spoil for those who have not seen it yet. But I don't have much else to say about this that I haven't already said from my review of it back when I did my springtime 2025 video. So please go check that video out so you can see all the movies I did see there. And let's get over to my number 3 pick. Speaking of, it's One Battle After Another. The good old Paul Thomas Anderson's back again. Now, I of course made a video discussing my thoughts on it and whatnot, but I'm going to at least try to talk about it briefly and just discuss some things here and there, maybe some things I just haven't really talked about in that video. But we got here's a lot of different things. We have a cutthroat militia chasing after loud and proud revolutionaries, a guy struggling with drug addiction, his daughter getting kidnapped by the regime's lead officer, and a pretty chill guy who runs a dojo taking care of families. And he's so chill, he'll decide to dance while getting arrested. But, when it comes to our lead, Bob, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, take what I mentioned earlier with what happens to Craig from Friendship, make him less of a buffoon, but dumb enough to let the drugs cause memory loss, and you got yourself quite the interesting father figure. Whether it be short term or long term, you can decide it for yourself, but either way, this is an entertaining 2 hours and 40 minutes. The entire time I sat there watching it, I was not bored at all. If the movie that's number 1 here on the list ain't gonna do some sweeping in major awards shows, I believe this right here is the clear runner-up. Despite what people will say on different ends of the political spectrum and whatnot. Again, I don't want to delve into politics here on the channel. This is just me, just my thoughts about it, saying I enjoyed it. But either way, let's talk about my number 2 pick. And now it's time I talk about a less controversial pick as my number 2, but it's still very much engaging either way. And that, my friends, is the Spanish thriller Surat, directed by Oliver Lax. This film follows an elder dad and his young son trying to find their lost daughter in the deserts of Morocco, where it's there that actually find 2 people at a rave party named Jade and Steph, who eventually help them go on their quest to find her and whatnot. But amidst conflict in the region, this doesn't seem as easy as it seems, and the group that both Jade and Steph are from get detoured from their next rave destination. So either way, all we'll say about the rest of this because I don't want to stop short of explaining even further of the plot. The rest of this is very much tense and heart pounding. So it's quite the international feature that will tug at heartstrings and whatnot. Just as much as another movie I mentioned earlier in the video will do just that, but this one even more so because of the stakes at hand. Just take what you will from the information when I say stakes at hand. This film took home the jury prize at Cannes earlier this year, and alongside It Was Just an Accident and The President's Cake, this is also one of those movies that made the Oscar shortlist. So it's definitely going to be a race that is going to be very interesting for international feature. It'll be quite the interesting choice as to what will actually end up getting into the race for best international feature. I hope this movie does get into the international feature like a finalist, because I mentioned it just made the short list. But we'll see once the nominations do get announced later in January. I will make a video, of course, on those nominations. I was planning on making a video, talking about my predictions of what will get nominated, what won't get nominated. But I'm not totally sure if I will go through that. At the very least, it is something I'm thinking about in the back of my mind. But either way, let us finally talk about my number one seed, or just number one pick in general. What I decided to end up deeming my favorite movie of the entire year of 2025. And that, my friends, I gotta give it to Sinners. It is an absolute banger of a movie, and I'm pretty I like if there's any movie that I was very happy to have watched for this past year, outside of One Battle After Another, it is this one. It has been the most fun that I've actually had sitting in a theater for quite a long time. All too often the industry is filled with a lot of sequels, reboots, spin-offs, and whatever the hell comes next. This was this movie that I put here at number one. This is the kind of production that just doesn't really get made anymore, and it's kind of why I wanted to push it here in the number one seed. But I will say, supporting original pieces of work in spite of the reliance of genres and whatnot. This is something that we must do. It's something I heavily encourage. Is to seek original works out there. And don't just go on just watching another Marvel movie, another insert franchise movie. Actually try. That's all we'll say. I mean, I want to discourage going to see your comfort movies and whatnot, but I wanted to at least have this entry here in number one be something at least pretty original. But either way, let me go back to talk about the movie, because I feel like I am getting a bit off topic here when I say this. But yeah, let's discuss a little bit about this masterclass of cinema, since I've already discussed it in my spring 2025 video. So it's quite a blend of genres, that this flick really is. But while at large this is definitely a horror movie, it balances a bunch of gothic elements, period drama, and has musical overtones to create a seamless experience unlike any other that I've seen before. We see the Smokestack twins in their hometown, back from their endeavors with Al Capone. They want to open a pub, try to get some swell food and entertainment there, and who knows, maybe a thriving business. But needless to say, things didn't go exactly as planned, and it attracts a trio of vampires to the barn. But now it's of course of their utmost importance to protect it and their lives at all costs. And that's all I'm going to say about this plot story-wise, because honestly, if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and see it. Because I really just want to sit here and just talk about all the fun shit this film did. But I'm just gonna say right now, while I'm not the best fan of one-shot takes, because it can get pretty repetitive and whatnot. Minus its use in Carrie, of course, and maybe 1917, but again, I haven't seen that in quite a long time. Either way, the way that the one-shot is used in the film's centerpiece, I Lied to You, is the stuff of legends, literally and figuratively, because it does go forward and in time, the decades, showcasing the amazing talent over the years. or whatnot. Not to like specifically name names because there's doesn't really any names per se to name off the top of my head, but like the black representation is amazing in this. Either way, this it's really well produced, well thought out. It's got great performances, of course, from lead actor Michael B. Jordan, who does an amazing dual twin performance, working alongside a double during production to make it work out. But my heart really belongs to Miles Canton, who plays basically the Smokestack twins, like I guess you can say like a little cousin and whatnot, or little relative. His performance really seals the entire movie for me, and on going back into his vocals on "I Lied to You," has the best vocals, like probably the whole cast. I'm just gonna say that right now, and I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this movie that I haven't said already, other than go watch it. If it is playing in a theater near you, watch it in theaters. Worst case scenario, you can always like rent a movie or whatnot. Like, by all means, please just go watch the damn movie. It is that good. And that's everything I've seen this past year, all ranked for you guys. Now, this definitely has been quite the interesting trip as far as movies go, but I'm glad to see we had a good number of bangers this past year, including something like the Naked Gun reboot. Even though I said like my whole pick about like reboots and like sequels and whatnot, but that's like probably like one of those exceptions. I'd be like, okay, I'll probably watch. I've heard really good things about it. But anyway, getting back on topic, the number of films that we've had this past year definitely sets the bar high as to what we'll see this new year and whatnot. Can we possibly get any better movies this year? I don't know. That's something I can't really say for certain yet. Now, I know not everyone enjoys award shows, but for those of us who do, like kind of like myself here and there, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how things develop like in the next like couple of weeks or whatnot. I'm saying this outside of like the Golden Globes, because like I don't really watch them like nowadays. I kind of did, but like I gotta be completely honest. When I was like looking up stuff, I was doing this video. I saw that it's like literally next Sunday. As I'm saying this as of the time recording, which is probably going to be in a few days by the time this video gets uploaded. I gotta be honest, I was just like, I just don't care. I just want to wait till March or something. But either way, it definitely feels a lot like very exciting nonetheless. Just to see this current set of nominees. Well, I mean, nothing is nominated yet as far as like the Oscars, but it's really nice to see all these these like movies popping up here and there. Like that honestly I thought were just gonna be bait, but like these are actually really fucking good for once. I'm like, wow, all right, like wait, like are we back? Like are we like actually back into to go into theaters? Like because it almost felt like we were just like, it was like a brief period of time where it was like, okay, they were like we're back, but when it came to like Oppenheimer, but maybe we're back, maybe we're so back for this one. That's just like my opinion and whatnot. Maybe because maybe because last couple of years it like outside of like some of my favorite filmmakers of like the past decade or whatnot finally getting their due regard as far as like getting a reward like Sean Baker did for Anora. Finally, I'm so glad Sean finally got a chance to win, and he did it. And of course, I can't forget the king of Batman movies, Christopher Nolan. I mean, he also did Memento, which is like my personal favorite Christopher Nolan movie, but his magnum opus in Oppenheimer is pretty good. I'm glad they finally won for that. But yeah, maybe that's just my like general opinion when I say this stuff. Like, the last couple of years, just like outside of like filmmakers I really wanted to see win, just kind of feel boring and whatnot. But this year, this is probably a little different. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Obviously, I mentioned this earlier in the video. I am going to be looking forward to watching the live reaction, and I'm going to be streaming my reaction to the official Oscar nominations, which that should be in like a few weeks. By the time I drop this video, which I probably am shooting for Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, but it's coming. It's gonna be in a few weeks. I'm going to be live streaming it. I'm just like I do nowadays, I'm gonna be like streaming both to my Twitch and my YouTube at the same time. So, guess of both. But with how things as I mentioned in my update video, with how things are with trying to get my channel discovered or whatnot, unfortunately I had to unlist most of the VODs on YouTube. So, well, pretty much everything, and now it's just gonna be uploaded to my a separate VODs channel. So, I hate everything, because I really want a separate algorithm for live content, so that not directly VODs are not directly interfering with regular videos and whatnot. But that's just me. But either way, I'm looking forward to watching more movies this year and whatnot. I'll wait just a second. Okay. I didn't think I actually got a call while I was recording, but it was probably just a spammer at the very least. But either way, I'm looking forward to spending more time in the theater again this year. While I still can, of course, because my paranoia and whatnot with the whole Netflix deal and whatnot, just going crazy. But either way, that being said, I will see you guys all in the next video, whatever that may be. It probably will be either later this month or next month, whatnot. But either way, I will see you all then. Bye, everyone.